welcome to my 2018 Inktober sketchbook tour. We're going to go over all of the drawings for this month, and I'm going to give a brief review of my materials and just a few things that I kind of figured out throughout the challenge. And let's go ahead and get started with the sketchbook. Okay guys, getting started with day number 1, the prompt was poisonous. So I did a coral snake and a hand, just wanted to keep it simple today. And I tried to use some wash in the background to sort of give that poisonous atmosphere and also give a little background to this image. One of the fun things I did this year was doing 2 pieces on one page just to give a little variety throughout the sketchbook. For day number 2, the prompt word was Tranquil. I tried to use her hair and just her facial expression to really emphasize a very tranquil, serene kind of mood. For day number 3, the prompt was Roasted. Nothing complicated here, I just wanted to do a skull, to be honest with you. I did give it some fangs just to make it a little more Halloween-y, and I tried to make sure that I referenced actual skull images so that I could get it relatively anatomically correct. For day number 4, the prompt was Spell. This is the first of my speed paintings from this year, and it's just a witch casting a spell is what I was trying to show. I hope that that translates properly. You can check out the speed painting on my channel when you're done watching this if you haven't already. For day number 5, the prompt was Chicken. Literally could not think of anything but chickens for this prompt. I generally try to think a little bit outside of the box in terms of my imagery for each prompt, but this time I just went ahead and did a rooster. I really had a lot of fun with the feathers and creating the textures in this piece, and I was actually pretty happy with how it came out. Day number 6, the prompt was Drooling. Of course, my mind went straight to a dog, so I went with a wolf, and again, just wanted to make it spooky and Halloween-y, which is why the drool is blood. So yeah. Day number 7, the prompt was Exhausted, so I just went with some tired eyes because honestly that's how I was feeling that day. And again, you're gonna notice that sometimes I just make choices for the sake of Halloween and nothing else, so that's why we have these halo eyes going on. For day number 8, the prompt was Star, and I originally kind of went with a Hollywood starlet kind of thing, and this is one of the few pieces where I liked the sketch better than the actual piece once I finished. I think that the brush pen may have just gotten away from me a little bit. Still, I liked kind of approaching it in a different style, and I thought it came out nice. Day number 9 is Precious, so I drew a cat, no further explanation needed. And for day number 10, the prompt was Flowing, and I decided on a potion. And the bottle is a little bit of a callback to the potion from last year's Inktober, the Smoke Inktober, which is why it's billowing into this sort of smoke at the bottom. I think that it looks really cool. For day number 11, the prompt was Cruel. I decided to kind of go with like a cruel person instead of showing a cruel action. So I went with this sort of badass chick. I kind of imagine her to be like a vampire assassin or something like that. But she's kind of more of a creature than a person. And I like the reddish color of the smoke because I think it goes with the mood a little bit better than if I had just done it gray. For day number 12, the prompt was Whale. Again, went sort of with the obvious imagery, but executed it just a little bit differently So I have played before with the contrast between a more realistic rendering versus a line work rendering that I would normally like to do. I wanted to kind of feel like a portal into another view of the dimension or something weird like that. Day number 13, the prompt was guarded. This was actually a result of a lot of frustration and confusion, and then ultimately just kind of cranking something out for the sake of getting something done. I was really happy with how it came out because I like the juxtaposition between the hand being this sort of rough sketch and this very thin line work as it contrasts against the brush pen texture, and I think that the two of those things against each other just looks really interesting. Day number 14, the prompt was clock. I wanted to do like a Father Time sort of thing here. I'm not entirely happy with the composition of it, but I do think that the idea came across, and I was also really happy with how his eyes came out. I thought they were really intense, and I decided to put the clock as one of his eyes to just sort of emphasize the Father Time kind of idea. For day number 15, the prompt was weak, so I just did a weak flame inside of a lantern. For day number 16, the prompt was angular, and this was also a bit of a callback to last year as well. I wanted to look kind of magic based, so that was that. Day number 17 was swollen, and originally I thought about a frog croaking, so I was looking up some images for reference and ended up finding a really fat toad that I thought looked really squishy and cute and swollen. So here we go. We have the swollen toad. And then for day number 18, the prompt was bottle, and I immediately thought of the bottle from Sally's gift in Nightmare Before Christmas. So this is actually the gift basket that she sends to Jack in Nightmare Before Christmas, and I just wanted to do this a little bit as an homage to one of my favorite movies. Day number 19 was Scorched, and I actually had the idea for this piece before Inktober even started. I had sketched it down really roughly, and I'm really happy with how it ended up coming out. I was sort of thinking of it like a goddess of a volcano, or like a lava queen, or something like this, and I'm glad that people seem to really like this one. It was one of the more popular of the month. And this one also has its own speed painting, which you can see on my channel now, or whenever you finish watching this. So for day number 20, the word was breakable. I wanted to do like a mask with a crack in it, so I went with this sort of Venetian style of a mask, and just gave a little extra details around it. And then day number 21, the prompt was drain. This was, to me, my least successful piece of this month for a number of reasons. I think the idea was good, but the execution just wasn't that great. For day number 22, the word is expensive. Again, went with a simple sort of image. I wanted to do sort of like modeling hands. You know how you see those jewelry ads like in magazines and stuff? I wanted it to kind of resemble that. And then day number 23, the word is muddy, and I went with a swamp monster kind of thing. I put a few little details like some twigs and little sprigs of grass popping from underneath the mud sludge. This is my favorite overall page for this month, and I was really happy with how this page came out altogether. Day number 24, the word was chop, and I kind of went with the off of his head kind of idea. So yeah, it's just like a slice going, just slicing his head right off. Day number 25, the word was prickly, so I went with some sort of rose bush thorns and a girl trapped inside. Day number 26, the prompt was stretch, And because I knew what I wanted to do for day number 27, I decided to make this page animal based. So for stretch, I went with some octopus tentacles, and then also I wanted to incorporate stippling for a couple of pieces this year. So I did sort of a gradient of stippling from the bottom sort of fading towards the top of this page. And I really like this little part at the top where the tentacle is kind of popping out of the frame. And then for day number 27, the prompt was thunder, and I immediately thought like a thunderous roar. So I wanted to do a bear again, another callback to last year, but this time he's roaring, and again I did this sort of stippling texture. I really like the texture of the stippling, and I don't know if you guys could tell, but it was supposed to sort of be like a black crescent moon at the top. Just cause why not? Let's just put a moon in there. Day number 28, the prompt was gift, and just a witch here doing a little bit of magic, showing off her third eye. I was really happy with how this turned out, and I have a speed painting of this piece on my channel as well. Day number 29, the prompt was double. This was the most popular of the entire month. The main thing for this piece was getting these eyes to overlap. I think that's what really ties it together, and offsetting the red version just enough so that you can see it distinctly but understand that it's a part of her. Definitely one of my favorites of the month, and definitely one of you guys' favorites of the month. So yeah, that's double. Day number 30, the prompt was Jolt, and I saw an image on Pinterest of a lady in this really flowing dress. It kind of got me into the idea of like a Greek goddess, sort of goddess of thunder kind of thing. So that's what I went with. This is one of the situations where my sketch came out much better than the finished piece, and again I think it's because the ink kind of got away from me a little bit. But with that said, I was really happy with how her hair came out, and I think that the whole goddess sort of imagery comes across really nicely. And then for day number 31, the prompt was slice. I wanted to go really simple with this one. It was Halloween, so I just went with a knife covered in blood, again, just for the sake of Halloween. I did, however, decide to put a little texture in the handle and gave the blood a little more dimension with a darker shade of red. But that's it. That is all. That's the whole month. So I did take a few notes of some things that I wanted to mention to you guys that I sort of figured out along the way, and I kind of tried to look back on my Inktober and give myself a bit of a review. But the first thing is I didn't end up using all my supplies. If you remember in the Inktober prep video, I had purchased a number of new supplies. Most of them I did end up using, but there was a lot of the new ones that I ended up not using very much. The thicker Sakura markers I ended up not using at all. The white Dr.Ph.Martin's well ink, while I did use it in one of my pieces, I ended up not using it the rest of the month, but I did like it. It layered on really nicely. It was very opaque and bright. Looking forward to using it for future stuff. Just ended up using my GellyRoll pen instead for most of my white details. The Aquash pen I absolutely love, and I'm a little bit ashamed of myself for not having used it before, but I do plan on buying a lot more because it was really great for getting good washes of ink and being able to do grayscale on the go. But yeah, I mostly used my Fineliners. I did end up using the Dr.Ph.Martin's well ink occasionally, but for the most part I just used the Pentel brush pen, the pocket brush pen, my Aquash pen, and my Micron Fineliners. And honestly, because of that, I sort of realized that restricting my supplies may also work in my benefit for future Inktober's. So I'm going to try to limit my supplies that in a similar way going into next year. The Moleskine watercolor paper sketchbook was very impressive, at least to me, especially because when it dried, the paper didn't dry heavily warped from the washes or anything. And then, you know, obviously you can close it back up and it sort of helps keep the pages flatter. But I really liked the way the paper dried despite having washes on it. Like on this day, the entire background is basically wash. So for the paper to not have warped too terribly, I mean, there's like a little bit of a flare at the end. For the most part, it dried really straight. And then also the texture of the paper really, to me, worked in my advantage. I think it gave a little bit more interest in the areas that were washed or supposed to be suggesting shadows and skin and stuff like that. But the lines throughout the month, the line work stayed really crisp. The only thing that was weird for me about this sketchbook is the landscape formatting. I'm used to drawing in portrait style sketchbooks like this. But I guess because this book is so small, it doesn't feel as weird because I can transport it easily. But I did try this double page thing for the first time this year, and I really like that aspect of it. I like that you can sort of look at it from right to left, but I do want to use this sketchbook for another Inktober. I think I'm gonna save it for my 2020 Inktober. I don't know why. I think it would just be nice to keep the years even. But anyway, that's not relevant. Point is, excellent sketchbook. I really recommend it. I'm probably going to look into getting another one just for my personal use, not for Inktober specifically. I'm really happy with how that came out, with how this worked out. A few takeaways from this year. So if you remember in the prep video, one of the things that I try to put emphasis on is to not stress yourself out. There was one day, like one day specifically, I stressed myself out. I'm sure that it was because of a mixture of other factors that were going on that day, but there was one day that I just literally could not think of anything, and that day was Guarded, and it ended up being a really popular piece this year. So the day I stressed myself out and just did like anything, people just loved it. It was honestly like a really strange thing. I was really confused, mostly because I just didn't understand like what it was that made that piece so interesting for people, but I ended up being really happy with it too. I'm glad that worked out, but that's to say, don't stress yourself out. Like, there's really no reason to stress yourself out about your Inktober drawings unless you're like, you know, planning on making it like a zine or something. That's more reasonable. The point is to kind of like stimulate your creativity and kind of make the best out of your lemons, you know what I mean? I think I was just trying too hard that day, and once I stopped trying so hard, something really dope came out of it. So yeah, just thought I'd share that little story with you. The other thing that I took away from it is about my personal artistic development. I really need to do more studying of values, and I also need to do more reference-based study. I need to brush up on my basics, which I think I've been saying the entire year, but I really do need to dedicate some projects, some like actual assignments for myself where I'm just sort of studying. That is the point of the assignment, like beyond just doing reference drawing in my sketchbook. I want to do like actual paintings and finished pieces that are based on me learning. So that's something to look forward to. I asked on Instagram if anyone had any questions about my Inktober this year, and I got like 1 or maybe 2 responses. So the question that I got was, how do you come up with your designs? Obviously I follow the prompt list, but also I really try not to go too obvious, or if I do something obvious, I try to freak it a little bit to sort of like give it a little something different. So for example, the chicken prompt, I had no idea what to do with other than drawing a chicken. But then I was like, okay, well if I have to draw a chicken, I'm gonna make it a black rooster. So that just gave it a little more interest to me. And then of course executing it with the framing of the red circle in the background, to me, I like the way that, what is this called? Let's Google it. Okay, apparently it's called a waddle. Waddle? At any rate, I like the way that it blended in with the background. I tried to use the darker red to give it a little bit more texture and just sort of show that it's something separate. There was also times when I didn't know what to do, and I just sort of like sketched until something looked right, and then I just sort of build off of that. Most of it's not pre-planned. Most of it is just sort of like sketching until something clicks, and then once I get that click, I just go with it and just figure out how to make it interesting along the way. The other thing is that I have received questions about whether or not I'm going to be making prints of any of my Inktovers. I'm personally not going to be making prints of it, but I do plan on either posting it on my Society 6 or having another avenue for people to purchase prints of those. Hopefully I'll have that all set up before the end of November. I know it's a little bit delayed, but I'm trying to get it done as quickly as I can. I don't really want to go into it here. I'll probably discuss more about my shop situation in the October studio vlog, but just know that one way or another I will have some prints available of a few of the more popular Inktobers from this year, and I'll let you guys know as soon as that's ready. A couple of more things that happened this Inktober. I reached 100 subscribers on YouTube, so I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and I hope that you're enjoying my videos. I hope that you're enjoying my artwork. Please join me on Instagram if you are not already, because that's where my art is posted in real time, and that's where you're going to be able to keep up with my work more consistently. And also I kind of just want to give like an honorable mention here to the prompts double. I got 2,000 likes on that drawing, and I have no idea why. I know it's something algorithmic or whatever, but I'm really glad so many people liked it, so thank you for the support and that interaction. It was really encouraging and surprising, and I'm just glad you guys liked that piece as much as I liked it when I finished it. I spent a good amount of time trying to make sure it looked exactly how I was envisioning it, so yeah, thanks for that. And that's basically it, everybody. I hope you had an amazing Inktober. This has been the best October I've had in years, literal actual years. Always has been my favorite month, but the past few years October's been a little weird, but not this year. This year has been amazing, and I hope that Inktober was as successful for you guys as it was for me. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd really like to do a Q&A video, but no one asked me anything, so if you have any questions or just want some advice or anything like that, please let me know below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.